Okay, hey, welcome back. It's been a while since I made a video, and been kind of busy. Some things have changed, and now I'm trying to get back into doing some of the videos that I was doing before. Picking up with the landscape video, as you can see here, mostly because there's some things that were unfinished. One of them is the water system. I used the water system plugin that is in Unreal Engine in video number 5, and over time, it seems things have kind of broken with it a little bit. Maybe it's just not as easy to use anymore. I don't know. But in my class, I've had some students recently put the water in. The post processing isn't working correctly, and also we have some gaps between where the landscape is and where the water is that sometimes are quite large. And I've kind of fiddled around with it, trying to figure out what's wrong with it. Haven't had a lot of time to really focus in on it. And I just decided it might be better to just make a video on water and a couple real simple water systems that we're going to make today. And then in a future video, I'll also do a post-processing system for it as well. But initially, we'll just get the water in, make it move, kind of get it set up the way you want it to, and then we'll make it look pretty later on with some post-processing for underwater. All right, so again, if you first time you're joining me, you can check out my website, if I can find it here. I'm a little rusty. There we go. So you can check out my website, Putting on the Fritz 3D Visualization, see some of the other video tutorials that are out there. I have a pretty long one on a rollerball game, on making a wave game, and also a landscape that you can use in the wave game if you wanted to. All right, so let's go ahead and shut that down and get my head out of the way here real quick and take a look at what I'm talking about. So right here we have a river system that I put in. This is actually using a splines. So pumped it in there, putting splines in, and then kind of set it all up using panners and some other material systems. If we take a look here for the water moving material, this is the material. And then I've actually applied the material instance, of course, to the river pieces themselves. But in here, we're going to be using some texture coordinates to give us some control over tiling for the water itself. And then we use a little bit of animation to kind of move the water around a little bit. Panners to give a surface material, so it moves the UVs around on the surface of the material to give it some movement. We're also using some panners down here to feed into this animation tool. And then we're doing a little bit of single layer water material for giving that kind of the water appearance underneath the water as well as on top. So we get that kind of sparkle. Some light bending here with the Fresnel. And then just some basic other assets here that we will use to kind of move stuff around. I named this water speed, probably not the right name. I may change that as we move along because it doesn't really adjust the water speed. Anyway, yeah, so kind of some new stuff that we're going to use. I'm not going to use that. Decided to get rid of it. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. And then for the water lake, it's a little bit different. We're not going to be doing as much movement. Not going to be using the animation. And then we've also really kind of pushed out the tiling to kind of give it more of a ripple effect across the surface area. And still kind of the same things. We're using some coordinate vectors there. Again, we're going to do some scattering. So let's take a look at these here, the water, the river water, and then out over this direction, I kind of just threw in a plane. This is just a simple plane, and again, on it, created the water for the lake. Slowed it down quite a bit, kind of give it a water lake effect, and as well as, there we go, yeah. You see I haven't painted in any of the material for underneath, painted out the grass using mud like I did over here with the river, but that's all part of the material, blended material we did back in video number 4 for the landscape. So you can put in different, paint in different material. You can see I missed some spots there. But anyway, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into getting this to work. Let me get this out of the way and open up the project I already have set aside. Pretty much the same ground area. You can see right there I painted in the mud. This is the Aspen map that we used for the satellite imagery piece that we did back in video 3 on how to make our landscape. And again, this was actually Aspen, Colorado. You don't need to name yours Aspen. You can pick anywhere in the world. Some caveats to that with the types of maps available for video number 3. All right, so let's go ahead and first get our material started. And let me grab that real quick. All right, so what we're going to do is right down here in our content folder, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a new folder. And actually I already have one called materials in here, so I'll probably put it in there. But for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and call this models, and we'll come back to this one in a minute. So inside of materials folder, if you don't already have a materials folder, you can just right click and create a materials folder. Inside the materials folder, I'm creating another new folder, and we're going to call this one water. Okay. Then I'm going to double click, open that up, right click, and I'm going to go to my material, and I'm going to call this m underscore water, probably water river, because this is going to be my river water. This one. And then I'm also going to right click, create another material, and I'm going to call this m underscore water underscore lake. Okay. And I'm actually going to start with the lake one because we're going to build on that material. We're going to duplicate it and build it. So I don't know why I made this one. You know what? We'll just do a copy and paste. We'll just use that one. All right. So anyway, there we go. Open up the lake one. I'm going to go ahead and do a file, save all to save both those materials. And I'm going to shrink this sucker down a little bit. We don't need that quite so big in here. All right. Now, what I am going to do next is start with the lake one. Okay, so with our material selected here, we're going to change some defaults in here, okay? Over here on the left-hand side with the water material selected over here, the material node, we're going to change this to translucent. Okay, and we're also going to make this two-sided. And then down here under where it says nanite support, we're going to look for translucency, and we're going to change it from volumetric non-directional to surface translucency volume. And then I'm going to select a couple more things a little bit further down. Let's see here, it should be under, yeah, down here. And I'm going to hover over this, kind of pull to the right a little bit so I can see what I'm looking for. And the first one we want is used with spline meshes. Used with spline meshes right there. Then a little bit further down, we're going to use with water. And a little bit farther down, I'm going to go ahead and turn on nanite for this. And I think, yeah, one more thing down here. Let's see here. Under mobile, I'm not sure if this really matters, but if I can even find it. Forward shadows here. Oh, right here, mobile. So right now it's default. We're going to use full precision for material expression only. All right, and now you can kind of see the things have been happening over here to our little circular ball. All right, so now we've got that started. Let's go ahead and first give it some color so we can kind of see what's happening over here to it, and we'll also fill in some of these others. We're going to use parameters. Instead of constants. I like using parameters because those will show up in the material instance. We can always come back in and play around with them inside the material instance without changing the parent material. But the first thing we're going to do is right click. We're going to type in vector, vector 4. Oh, actually it's a This one. Constant. There it is. Constant 4 vector. Got that backwards. So we're going to pick a constant 4 vector, okay? And I'm sorry, we're going to delete that. We're actually going to pick a constant. We want a constant 3 vector. Okay. Constant 3 vector. And this is where we're going to change the color. Okay, right now it's black, 0, 0, 0 is black. Over here on the left-hand side, we can click in that little black spot where it says constant next to that. And we can kind of go over here and pick a color that's a little bit I kind of like making my water a little bit greenish color. It still comes out fairly clear, but kind of a darker greenish, something like that. Okay, down here you can see the numbers if you wanted to copy the exact number I have, or you can just kind of play around until you get the color you like for your water. Maybe you're wanting something in the Pacific Islands or something, make it nice and blue, or in the Atlantic, wherever, Mediterranean, whatever. All right, so there we go. I'm going to pick that color. It's a little bluer than I normally do. I may come back and fix that later. And this is going to go into my base color, okay? Now I should see the ball over here change a little bit, all right? Okay, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to hold down S, the S key, and left mouse click, okay? And that's going to give me a parameter, and this one's going to be metallic. Okay, I'm just going to go kind of in order over here. I'm going to give this a 0.5 value. And you can either Control D and duplicate it, but you need to make sure you change the name of it before you do anything else, because if you change the value in it, it's also going to change it because it's the same name, so it'll keep all the constants the same. All right, so the specular, we're going to do specular next. So again, S key, left mouse click, and I'm going to get specular. Specular. Sorry, I'm not the best speller in the world. All right. And this is going to be 0.3. And I think I'm going to need to bring these up just a little bit, give myself a little bit more room. All right, and of course roughness is going to be next. Roughness is going to be 0, no roughness. Okay, we're going to skip the anisotropy. I'm not going to use that here. We're going to use it elsewhere, down in another node. All right, so now emissive color. We are going to use emissive color, and this is going to be another 3 vector. So if we wanted to, we could just duplicate this one, and this one we're actually going to default it back to 0, 0, 0. So black. You just grab it over here, drag it all the way down, make it all 0, and say OK. Drag off from the top pin, plug that in here, and double click on that little line right there, and you can get yourself a little control node there to move it around. All right, opacity is going to be the next one. Again, I'm going to S key, opacity. All right, opacity is, for me, for my settings, is going to be a 0.3. All right, and that's going to get us started. The next thing we're going to do is Fresnel, and for some reason I don't have it available. Let me see, did I miss something? So let me select my water again. We should have Fresnel available down here. Let me try something real quick. I'm going to type in single layer water material output. Okay. And no, that did not bring it in, but we're going to keep this. Just go ahead and drag it down here underneath. We'll come back to that in a little bit. I missed something on my material. Let me figure out what it is real quick. Let's see here. Translucent. Oh, did I leave it? And default lit. Pause just a second while I sort this out. That way you don't have to wait for me. Yep, I did forget a setting. If you scroll back down, you select your water material here again, and you scroll down to where it says refraction method. Okay, we're going to select index of refraction right here. Okay, and when we do that, that's going to turn on our refraction over here. And this is where we're going to use Fresnel. Okay, and so we have a default setting that we go into it. All right, so if I right click and type in Fresnel, it falls under utility right here, and that's going to be this right here. Okay, now I'm going to plug that into refraction, and we're actually going to give it an exponent that we can control externally. So again, I'm going to hold the S button, get my parameter, and I'm going to type this in as Fresnel. I'm sure I'm saying that totally wrong. Fresnel refraction. There we go. Okay. Now for my refraction, it's going to go in. I'm going to give it a 0.9. Okay. And I'm going to plug this in here to the exponent. And we have this base refraction. My setting, I changed it to 0.09 in my, and actually these are both, this should be a 0.09, not 0.9. Okay. And these are things that we can come back and play with later, all right? All right, so the next thing, now we're going to go ahead and start making this move, because this material right now will not move. And you see right now we don't have any material on here, and that's because I left this kind of sitting in here with nothing on it. So we're going to get an error if we try to save it right now. So why don't we go ahead and fix that real quick. I'm just going to select this constant because we're going to get, actually these are going to be vector 4s. So that's not going to work. Right click, type in constant. And it's going to be constant 4 vector, okay? Constant 4 vector, and we need 2 of these, so I'm going to Control D and duplicate it. The first one is going to be left at the default black, and the bottom one is going to be made white. So again, if we select over here where it says constant, just drag this all the way up so that everything's 1, 1, 1, 1, 0 for our alpha. I'm going to say OK, and now we have a black and white constant vector 4. This one, we're going to name it, we're going to actually give this one a name. We're going to call this one scattering. Okay. And I should be able to oh my goodness. All right, let's delete these. Sorry, got the wrong ones. I did get the right ones for those, right? Yeah, those are correct. Okay. Yeah, that's why we couldn't name it. All right, hold on. All right, so if we hit Control Z a couple of times and bring those back so we don't have to remake them, all right? So there we go. My bad. Right click on it, convert to parameter, okay? The first one is going to be scattering, and the second one is going to be absorption, okay? So right click on it, convert to parameter, and we're going to call this one absorption. All right, so absorption. All right, so now we're going to do a little bit of math just to make things kind of work the way we want to. So we're going to get a multiply. So if you hold down the M button, the M key on your keyboard, you'll get the multiply. We're going to take the top output, put that into the A, and then we're going to take the bottom output, okay, which should be our alpha. We're going to connect those together, and we're going to get the multiply. Pull this back a little bit. All right, now hold down the left mouse button, or I'm sorry, hold down the D button, the D key, and left mouse button click, and you'll get the divide, okay? And we're going to take this output and put that into the A, and then we're going to take the top one here and put that into the B. We're also going to take off from this top one here, and this is going to go into scattering coefficient right there, okay? Now you can see over here our material has actually changed a little bit. All right, we're going to need another divide, so I'm just going to do a Control D for duplicate, okay? And this one is going to have the output from this divide and then the output from the bottom part of the parameter into the B. And we're going to go ahead and connect this into absorption. Okay. And then we're going to create yet another parameter called anisotropy, because remember we had it up here on the material, but we're not using that one. We're going to put it into here, into phase G. So S, hold the S button down, left mouse click, and it's anisotropy. Okay. This is going to have a default value for us of 1. And I'm going to go ahead and plug this in right there. Okay. All right. So now we're almost done with this material. And we're just going to make a few duplications when we get ready to do the one for the river. Okay, so out here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to get text. So we want a texture coordinate, okay? And this texture coordinate, if we zoom in on it and hit the down arrow, gives us the ability to tile our material. Because my lake is going to be kind of big, I want to be able to tile this so that instead of stretching my material out, I repeat it a whole bunch of times. So instead of stretching it over the entire surface area, I repeat it. So I'm going to put 10 in there just as a starting point. Now, depending on the size of the lake, this number would change, okay? The next thing I need to get is time. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to get our time, or our system time, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a panner. And a panner is what allows us to create movement in our UVs. So hold down the P key and left mouse click and you get a panner. So P to get panner, okay? Plug that into coordinate there. And the reason why I'm pulling this one out here is because there's going to be a second one of these in a minute. And the same with this, we're going to put time in here. I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to duplicate it, okay? And I'm also going to put this one into here and put the time into this one here as well, okay? Now, we need to get a normal for these. Let me pull these back a little bit to make this work, okay? Because we're going to use and repeat the appearance of bumps and such on our water. So if I'm going to go down here to my content drawer, okay? And I want to make sure that over here I have, it says engine, right? If it does not say engine, go to your settings over here, and right here, put a check mark that says show engine content. And that gives you access to a whole bunch more stuff that should be available, okay? So I'm going to click in here. I'm going to select all up here in my top level, all. And I'm going to just type in water, okay? And you may end up with a lot of stuff. It just depends. This is a bare bones project that I have. I haven't put anything else into it. So this probably is the default stuff. And I need 2 of these. So I'm just going to click and drag, drop that in there. And I'm going to do a Control D to duplicate it. Control D to duplicate. I'm going to feed this into my UVs. Okay. And when I do that, you see it's going to repeat a whole bunch of times. So 10 by 10 makes this a bunch smaller. Okay. And I'm going to do that again right here. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a lerp. So if you hold down L and left mouse click, you'll get this lerp node, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to take the RGB and we're going to plug that into A, and then we're going to take this one, we're going to plug it into B, and then for the alpha, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an add node. So I'm going to left mouse, I'm going to hold the A down, A as an alpha, left mouse click, and get the add button, okay? And I'm going to take off from the bottom alpha there, so the alpha output. And I'm just going to put that in just like that, down here at the bottom of the lerp. And then I'm going to feed this into my normal right there. And we should end up with a material that has a bunch of texture all over it, okay? Left mouse button click. There we go. All right. So I'm going to save everything I have right now so I don't lose it, okay? And let's go ahead and try this material out real quick. I'm going to go jump back into my Aspen world. And I think over here is where I kind of stuck in a texture, okay? Now, it would probably work just fine with a regular plane, but we can also, with our modeling tools here now, with in the selection mode, select modeling, and we're going to make a model for this that we're going to use. So I'm going to select this rectangle, and I'm just going to drop it down here in the world, okay? And we can even zoom in on it if we want, I think. No, cannot. But we can go closer to it if we wanted to. All right, there it is right there. I'm going to subdivide this by 50 and 50, I believe, is the max we can do. Maybe more. Maybe it's 500. Yeah, it's 500 is the max. All right, so that's going to give us a lot of subdivisions. And in the future, if we decide to add some additional movement to this object, we could then use all of these additional vertices that we made in these subdivisions, all right? Down here at the bottom, before we do anything, where it says AutoGen folder, I'm going to hit the down arrow. I'm going to select current folder. Then I'm going to go to my content drawer. I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to go into my content folder. And that folder I made for models, I'm going to left click on that, okay? And now I'm going to click back here. And I'm going to go ahead and just say accept, okay? There's probably someplace where you can give it a name, but I haven't really figured that out yet. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and say accept, okay? And it should have created it. Now there it is in the real world. If I go to my outliner, there it is right there. I don't really need that anymore because I put it here in my model. I am going to hit F2. I'm going to select it, hit F2. I'm going to go SM underscore, and I'm just going to say water. Yeah, I'm just going to say water mesh underscore. So there we go, okay? Because I can use this for both the lake and the river probably, and we'll try that out. Okay, so now I'm going to select this one that's in the real world here, and I'm going to just delete that, okay? I'm going to select this one. I'm going to click and drag it back into the world. And over here in my details, I am going to make it much bigger. I think 1,000 by 1,000. And this is just to kind of test it out, okay? And you can see these little X's here. So this is where the subdivisions came in, but they're very large still, okay? But you know, if you wanted something with a lot more definition, you could probably have to make that in a 3D modeling software somewhere. All right, so now this is going to be where my lake goes, and I think that's where I wanted it. Maybe put it down a little bit. All right, something like that. All right, so now let's go ahead and go find our material. Okay, and I forgot to hit save on my lake water. I should have saved it all because it did not update my material. There it is, now it's updated. Okay, I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit right click on it and go up and create material instance, okay? And I'm going to just put an I after the M there for material instance. And I'm going to go ahead and select it. And then over here, hit this little arrow. And it should put the material down in here. And it is not moving. So let's do a little troubleshooting and figure out why it's not moving. Oh, it's not moving because I didn't put any the information here in the panner. All right, so got to actually make some differences for the speed here in the X and Y for both of these so that they'll actually move. So for this first one, I have this link kind of going a little slow. So like 0.002 and 0.001 for this one. And then down here, I just flipped those around and did 0.001. And then for the second one, I did 0.002. Hit enter. And now we should have a little bit of movement. I'm going to go ahead and save. You should see some movement here maybe, but it's going very slow. So it's not going to be really, really fast. Now the next thing we need to do is if we test this out, we're going to find that we can walk on water. Pretty cool. But we don't want to walk on water. So I'm going to hit escape. Well, maybe you do. But anyway, I'm going to double click on this mesh we created. And in the collision area under details, over here, go down to collision where it says block all. I'm going to go ahead and select no collision. Okay. Now if I go back in, save it first, go back in and hit play, I should be able to just walk out into the water. All right, so there we have it. We've got our first one done. You can kind of see my legs twisting and moving. That's what we did with the settings for the Fresnel and the Entrosopi, whatever that is. Anyway, yeah, so there we go. All right, so that's the first one done. Now let's go ahead and go back into our water here. We're going to copy everything. I'm going to actually grab this and slide this over just a little bit so it's in line like this, because we don't want to copy the material. We just want to copy all of the nodes. Okay, so I'm going to select them all. And this is how you can move things from one blueprint to another. It's just by Control-C to copy it. We could have duplicated it, but we've already created the material down here and for our water river. So I'm going to double click on that, open it up, and I'm going to hit Control-V and paste it. Okay, so the only thing I need to do now is just connect everything all back up. Duplicating it would have saved us the effort of having to do that, of course. But since we already created it, and if you have pieces of a blueprint that you want to use, you don't want the whole thing, this is another thing you can do. Now, one of the things we've got to do is set this material up because not everything we need is available. This one we're going to set up a little bit differently, and that's another reason why I guess I didn't duplicate it as well. This one we're actually going to go in and select it here, and over here on the left hand side we're going to leave it surface opaque, but instead of default lit and in transparent like we did last time, we're actually going to pick the single layer water right there. Okay, and we're also going to make sure it's two-sided because we're going to be able to look at it from the underside. And then I'm going to scroll down to the same spots we did before. We're going to use this with spline. Use with spline meshes, use with water, and use with nanite. I didn't convert the lake to nanite, but we could have done that. We also want to make sure I don't skip that again. For mobile, we're going to use full precision again, and we're also going to change the refraction method to index of refraction, so we end up with all the nodes we need, and that should be it. All right, let's go ahead and save it just in case something crashes while we're working with it. We don't want to lose our work. All right, so I'm going to plug in emissive color again, which was this node here. The opacity, I'm going to plug in now that we have opacity available. I'm also going to take this and plug it in to my normal. Okay, I'm going to change this though from 10 to 5. Right, And what else are we doing here? Okay, got just about everything else we need. Let me just grab this and move it over a little bit out of the way. We're going to need to hook up this. I'm going to drag it down a little bit. And this is going to go right in here to refraction. All right, and then I'm going to take this node here all the way through the lerp, highlight it, go underneath it and hit Control D and duplicate it, okay? And kind of set it up like that. Because what we're going to get next is we're going to right click and we're going to type in ms underscore vertex, okay? And it should just pop in with vertex animation tools, all right? We're going to morph some stuff here. And I'm going to grab these, drag them down out of the way, put this up here. We're going to feed this lerp into the very top for the morphing the animation. And then we're going to put this into world position offset. Okay, this is going to give us some kind of up and down motion of the river so that when we stand in it, it looks like it's moving a little bit better. Okay, so the other thing we need to change now is some of our information. In my material instance, I had set it up so that we could change the speed of the river, the way it kind of moves back and forth, up and down. Yeah, I think I'll still do that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hold down the S button, left mouse click, and I'm just going to call this speed A, or speed, yeah, we'll just call it speed A because it's going to change both directions. And I'm going to make this 1 for the number in here. Just make it 1. And then I'm going to duplicate that, change the name from speed A to speed B, and then change speed B to okay, so it should be 0.2, and this should be 0.1. I really should wear my glasses when I'm doing this. Okay, and now I'm going to just connect these up into speed right here. And this is on the bottom one, not on the top one. This is on the bottom one down here, okay? The other thing I'm going to do is these two texture coordinates. We really don't need these, okay? All we're doing is we're wanting to we're wanting to send some different speed information, and we're going to combine them together. So I'm going to delete these two, the bottom two, not the top two. These bottom two down here that we created, that we duplicated. I'm also going to delete that add, okay? Grab these, kind of move them a little closer. This one goes into A. This one goes into B. And we're going to change this lerp to a 0.2. All right? And now, that should be everything. Let me make sure my numbers are right in here. Okay, so these numbers also allow us in the panner to change the direction that everything flows and moves, okay? I'm going to leave them the way we have them right now. And we're not going to get, actually, that's not true. I'm going to make them a little faster so we can see the motion, okay? So I'm going to make this one 0.2 and make this one 0.1, okay? And then I'm going to do this one down here at a 0 and 0.01. Just so we have some movement. And you can see here in my viewport that I have some movement going on. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply on this, okay? Save it. That completes this part of the movement, but we need to actually get it onto an object to see it, right? So I'm going to go over, and I'm not going to do the entire length of the river, but I'll get you started and show you kind of how the process works, depending on when you watch this. If you haven't watched my video on adding splines, using splines to make roads and fences, it's kind of the same concept as that. So if you've already watched it, you know how to move ahead, you can do that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick right now. So up here where it says selection mode on my main map, I'm going to hit the down arrow. I'm going to go into landscape, okay? In this main section, I'm going to select where it says manage right here. So landscape tab, manage, and I'm going to select splines. Okay. Down here where it says layer, I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to select create. Okay. And then I'm going to hit F2. Nope, I can't do that. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to hit rename, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this river. Okay. And then on my river, I'm going to right click on that, and we're going to reserve for splines. We're going to get this little pop-up. Says, you sure you want to do that? Yes, we do. Okay. So now we've got that selected and started. So we need to get our first couple of control points down. Hold the control button and left mouse button click, and you should get, usually it's much bigger than that, but for some reason it's very small. So you should get a little mountain looking little thing there. I'm not sure exactly what that is. And then I'm going to go ahead and hold the control button and create a second one, all right? And you can continue on making these as many as you want, and you can follow the terrain of your area. I'm just going to make a few so you can kind of get an idea, but I'm holding the control button down, and you can see that it follows pretty much wherever I want it to go. All right, so now that I have a whole bunch of those made, there's some things we're going to want to do, okay? The first thing is I'm going to want to get my segments in here. So, and actually I'm already on control points, but I don't have them all selected. But right up here on the right-hand side where it says details, I'm going to select my control points. I'm going to click on control points and select them all. They all should kind of turn yellowish now, right? And down here, because I don't want my water to be stuck to my ground like a road would be, I'm going to uncheck these. And I want to be able to manually control. And I also don't want it to change my terrain, because if I lifted these up, it would change the terrain as it raised and lowered it. So I don't want to do that. But you can try them out. Here's a mesh vertical offset. So I didn't mention this on my roads. I'm not sure it was available in earlier versions of Unreal. Maybe it was. But anyway, the mesh vertical offset allows you to put an offset for up and down. So if you have like a road or something that's kind of hovering off the ground a little bit, you can put a negative number in here. Remember, this is in centimeters, so pretty small. So you would negative, whatever to get it to be on the ground. Or if you want it to hover above because it's stuck underground, you can put this above that. And the great thing about this is you can set each of these control points to their own mesh vertical offset. So if you're having trouble with ground sticking in some spots and underground and being way above the ground in other spots, you can use this at the individual control points and change that, okay, by putting in different number of values in here for what you need. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to actually get our mesh stuck in here and our material. So I'm going to select segments, okay, so it's going to select all my segments. And when I do that, and if you notice back here on control point, a lot of people tend to want to put their material here, their objects here. This is not where we want to do it. We want to do it on the segments, okay? So I'm going to select segments. Right here where it says spline meshes, I'm going to hit plus. I'm going to hit the down arrow, and then the water that I made, I'm just going to hit that down arrow, type in SM underscore, I think I called it river maybe this last time. Maybe it was water. Yeah, okay, so there's that water mesh I created. I'm going to select that, okay? And because I put a few of these in, depending on how many you've already put in, it may take a second. You don't have to do the entire thing first. You can do a couple of these, and then you need at least two, and then you can attach it. And then once you hold the control button and click, it'll start to kind of fill that in. And for some reason, it's taking a lot longer than it normally would. So I'm just going to wait for a second. Maybe I'll pause. Maybe I'll pause the video. Okay, I'm back. I guess probably because I've got so much stuff going on my computer, it's bogging me down a little bit. All right, so notice what happened. It kind of clicked off on me. If this happens to you, you want to go over here, select this again, and you can select either one of these, control points or segments. And then once you get that, come back over here to segments, select all of your segments. And we have the initial ground put down. Well, let's go ahead and add our material to it. Right underneath where we put our mesh in, right here it says material overrides. I'm going to hit plus. And whoa, the computer's mad at me. Okay, there we go. And now this is where we're going to put in our material. And we didn't make a material instance yet. Bear with me a second. My computer is really mad. All right, I'm back. So now go ahead and put our material in here. So, and actually first we need to make a material instance. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the river, I'm going to select it, right click, I'm going to create a material instance. And again, I'm going to keep it the same name. I'm just going to put an MI, so an I after the M for material instance. I have it selected now. And then over here, I'm going to hit the little arrow and let it drop in there. And again, it looks like getting bogged down. I think OBS and the fact that I have two versions of Unreal Engine open right now, it's just mad at me. All right, there we go. So now we've got our water started, okay? And it looks like it's, I'm trying to remember which way is up and down here. I think, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it this instead. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to select my control points. I'm going to hit W on my keyboard. Let me find the beginning. I'm going to pull all this up a little bit so we can kind of see it. And this may be too much again. All right, so after computer bogged a couple times, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to open up my drawer, go to my content, my models. I'm going to select the water mesh. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to convert this right here where it says nanite. I'm going to enable nanite. Okay. And hopefully that fixes my problem. It's just, I think there was just way too much going on with that because of all the segments we put into it, or I put into it, may have been too much for it. So try this again. I'm going to select all my control points and hit W on my keyboard and see if we can pull this up. There we go. All right. And you can see that my ground is still connected to it. So we go back into my segments. Yeah, something must have happened. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck all that and make that go away. Okay. And go back to my control points. W again. Push it down just a little bit. And you're going to, of course, you probably want to follow the terrain of your grounds. But just for simplicity's sake, I am going to just stick it down a little bit further, not get too caught up on making this perfect. I'm just going to show you the initial tools and everything. Okay, so with all the control points selected, over here on the right-hand side, okay, so control points, select them all. Half width, that's the width of this. And then remember, this is in centimeters, so this is 1,000 centimeters wide. I'm going to make it something like 20,000. All of them are going to be the same because I have them all selected right now. So it's going to make my it should be doing it. Why is it not? Oh, my bad, because I selected the wrong one. Wow. Okay, so half width. I'm going to make that 20,000 right there, okay? There we go. So now it's going to make my water wider, okay? And you can also see that my water is kind of going the wrong direction. So go back to segments real quick, select all the segments. And the first thing I'm going to try to do is change my forward axis. So over here under our meshes, right here it says forward axis. I'm going to change this to Y because it's also kind of making some things look kind of funny. And it also really stretched some things. So I may have to play around with that a little bit. You have some scale down here. You can play around with the model to make the scale bigger or smaller. We can also play around with the coordinates here. So I made this 5 and 5, but we can change all that. I'm going to save everything. As we start to manipulate some of this stuff, we may cause it to crash and things like that. All right. So go back down here. Find a spot to look at. All right, so my water's going the wrong direction. This is where I'm going to go into the water river right here, into my material. And I'm going to kind of play around with these numbers, all right? So I'm going to change this one to 0 because I've already kind of messed with mine. So I should, this should work. Of course, every time I do this, things change. So I'm going to change my numbers around. And you can play with all 4 of these. You may have to try even negative numbers to get it to go in the directions that you want it to go. Okay, so you can even put negative numbers in here. But I'm going to leave these like this. Okay. Okay. And it is going the wrong direction. Or is this down? I cannot remember. I think that might be down. So that's the down direction. So it's flowing that direction. And yeah. So again, hovering above the ground here, I have to kind of fix my terrain and fix these positions, and you can grab them individually and change them. You can change the width separately. You don't have to make them all the same. Here on the control points, you can select individual control points, and you can change the width of individual control points. You can move individual ones up and down. Okay. Get it to match your terrain a little bit better. Go in the direction you want it to go. Those type of things, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to hit play. And oh, look at that. I'm walking on water again, and my water is moving really, really fast and really, really shiny. But again, those are some things that you can kind of play around with in the material. Let's go ahead and fix that. Now, in the static mesh, we've already taken away the no collision. But here in the control points, so I'm going to go ahead and select the river, select my segments, I think it is. It's either segments or it's, yeah, under segments, collision. Right now it says it's block all. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change that. And we're going to go to no collision. And we're going to go ahead and save that. Hit play. And it should be underwater. And if you look up, you can see the ripples under the water too. So once we get the post-processing done, this will be really nice. And to play around a little bit with the water color, because I'm not really happy with the way it looks right now. But those are all things you can play around with inside of yours. And a lot of that can be done now without having to go back to the main material, other than for adjusting the speed. You can go into the material, into your water, into the material instance, and play around with the way some of this looks by turning some of these check marks on and some of the metallic and some of those things. But again, the actual color itself, here's absorption and scattering. You can play around with those as well, but the water color is going to have to be adjusted here until you get the color that you like. We probably could promote this to a variable as well. We can go ahead and just call this watercolor. Save that. Go back in, save it. And now you have the watercolor. You can adjust it right here as well. And it might be a little bit too metallic as well. You can play with all those settings. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so that's it for this video. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. If you have any questions, please put those down in the comments section. I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you're in a completely different time zone, it may take me a few days to get back to you. Again, thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Help me out. Give me a few likes, and I'll see you next time.